further on. Part 2. Okay, so he wants to say man and the world has gone through different stages. In Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden, that's where the souls go now. It follows that the fruits that grew there were not physical and coarse like the fruits we find in this world. Rather, they must have been much more refined, at least to the extent that air is more refined than earth. So when we speak about these, the tree, they ate from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and bad and the tree of life, we don't really have those things. But they are, in some way we can relate to them. Let's see, from the fact that Adam's physical aspect before the sin was equivalent to our present spiritual aspect, we can calculate that Adam's physical aspect, had he ascended to his ultimate level, would have been equivalent to his spiritual aspect before the sin. This is the way things elevate themselves from one level to another. Okay, so, oh, did I just lose you again?
No, we can hear you.
Oh, where did the picture?
But you're not sharing screen anymore.
Oh,
so you want to turn that back on.
Yeah, I do. Sorry. So where is this meeting now? It's not there. Give me a second. Oh, I found you. There you are. Okay. Okay, this is a fascinating point. That the different levels that man can exist in basically either go up or down. That's not very profound. Meaning, let's just read this again. From the fact that Adam's physical aspect, so his body before the sin was equivalent to our present spiritual aspect. We can calculate that Adam's physical aspect, had he ascended to his ultimate level, would have been equivalent to his spiritual aspect before the sin. This is the way things elevate themselves from one level to another. So within the human capacity is existence on these, on different levels. I think the Vilna Gaon says that what happened when they ate from the tree, they dropped from the level of neshama to ruach, right? We have nefesh, ruach, neshama. We have all these levels of soul. Their identity was neshama, and they dropped to ruach. I guess there's chaya and yechida, they're higher levels of the soul, that should Adam have eaten, he's going to say now, eaten from the tree of life, his identity, he would have been identified and therefore even changed, built to form, right? What did you say the phrase was, Dan?
Purpose built.
Purpose built. If he's on the level of chaya, which is this higher level of neshama, his nature would change, right? And that's what changed. That's really the big change that happened. So therefore, he says that why is it called fruit? Because he says the fruit of the tree of life gave a person, it had an influence, just like you eat you eat one fruit that does one thing to your body, eat another fruit that does another thing to your body. It influences you. So he says, what was the purpose of the tree of life? This is very interesting, is that the tree of life gave a person true knowledge, as well as ability to cleave to God, love him, and understand his holy ways. It also freed the soul from physical desires. The tree of knowledge had the opposite effect. Tree of knowledge of good and bad. Its fruit caused a person to become subject to base physical desires and liable to committing all kinds of sin. So really, God told Adam, your choice is to eat from the tree of life or from the tree of knowledge. Had he eaten from the tree of life, he would have elevated himself to the degree that he never would have again, right? Had even been tempted to eat from the tree of knowledge. Michelangelo got this terribly wrong. First of all, man before the sin and after the sin look very different, right? Man before the sin he's an angel, right? His physical body's on the level of our spirituality, whatever that really means. And second of all, these were spiritual entities and these fruits, but it's a mashal, it's a parable to how we can understand things. Okay. That's it. So that's the end of chapter 6, and this is part 1. So so now we've basically got to the stage in history that that Adam and Eve have partaken of this fruit, this tree, and dropped to the level that somewhat we are in now. Although once again, there are many different people, there are many different times, there are many different actions which take effect, and how far they take effect is all dependent on that. And that's this part 1. Summaries, questions, alternate pictures. To me, when I step back and ask myself, what does this all mean? It does give me a sense of the greatness or the complexity, just sheer, I guess it evokes a sense of awe that, I do believe in this. So, it really is very awesome or inspiring, because there's an extremely intricate and complex, big, complicated system that God has created with real moving parts and real significance and ultimately real meaning. So I find this very inspiring, actually. That this is the nature of our world, and these are the opportunities that we have within it. And also, he says very clearly, he says, it's a risk, because we might not take the opportunities, and we might do again, what Adam and Eve did. We can keep on doing and just go down and down, and that's not a good thing. Ultimately, we know God will stop that, but that won't be for our merit. In that sense, we would not have gained the merit we are meant to gain. Deep stuff.
Oh, interesting. He writes about evil in this sort of general, abstract way. I think that anyone writing now sort of doesn't do that. It's more there. I don't know if this is just because, growing up in the 80s and 90s, we were sort of steeped in the recollection of the Shoah, that most of the people that we would read about any of these kinds of philosophies would have to address that sort of industrialized evil that occurred. And certainly there are plenty of things he could have written about crusades or the pogroms or whatever it was. And it just talks about Adam, and I think there's a golden calf in there somewhere, and doesn't actually mention anything specific. It doesn't give any example of it. Maybe that's coming. I don't know.
Yeah,
Of
I can't remember if that's coming. I also think it's his style, right? It's a very, he's trying to create a very abstract system over here. So, the details, and he says that in the beginning. I'm going to give you the general principles. You can go and work on the details yourself. They're too many to encompass in a book. But yeah, I hear your point. It is a very interesting point. Not sure he was living at the greatest time of humanity either.
I appreciate though that evil is not introduced as a punishment or as a corrective. It's done as a thing that one can grow from or learn, right? It's not as though it's visited upon you because of your actions. It's something that's granted to you as an opportunity to improve or to show goodness or to make the world better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's a great point. And then in that sense, how would you interpret the simple reading of many parshot in the Torah, which say, God says, if you you don't keep my mitzvot, I'm going to, I'm not sure, onesh. I don't know if that word actually comes up so much in the Chumash, but for better or for worse, I'm going to punish you.
Well, in personal experience, it's also what one typically does when things go wrong. You think, what did I do? Or what if I done something to deserve this? Or has something brought this on, that I did, as opposed to where can I gain from this? Or how do I, experience this in a way that makes me, it's almost a Stoic kind of philosophy. How do I grow from the bad things that come at me instead of suffering them?
Yeah. Okay. Great point.
The one example when there is a pretty severe punishment is the story of Noah, when God just says, all right, well, I guess we got to press the reset button, and that's going to entail basically killing every single person and animal except for what's going to go in the ark. It's kind of antithetical to my hope that evil is just a absence of light, absence of godly presence.
He was exotic in his generation.
Right. There he is.
But that's also never going to happen again, right? And so what does that mean also? That God made an agreement with man to not do a thing that God once did? I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, Rabbi, what is that? I mean, God also then answers to man in a sense, makes promises back, and commits or limits the extent of his power in accordance with.
I think it's, in terms of this, if there's really a closed matrix over here, there's certain possibilities. So, man started off going down one path. Obviously, mankind got to this place where that was, I have a friend, Sander Goldberg over here. He's a judge. Do you know him, anyone? Lev, you know him?
Yeah, I know of him.
I don't think
How do you
so.
know of him, Gil?
Through my folks. I've heard the name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's written some really excellent novels, by the way, about the lost tribes. He wrote a brilliant one recently about what did he call? What's the thing the Amish people take when spring?
Rumspringer.
Humspringer Color. Is his book about this girl that goes and then finds this Jewish guy. It's fantastic.
Oh,
but his big thing is that God doesn't change. don't relate, kids relate to God as changing. I'll change God's mind in prayer, or God, yesterday God was good to me, today is not. God never changes. This whole thing was clear to him from Bereshit, right? That's what the Ramchal said. Bereshit was this general, contained everything. And then it all plays out. So, part of God's plan was if mankind gets to where they got to in the generation of the flood, he would wipe them out, make sure there was one person he could go, with, and then the world would go down another path. But that second path does not have the possibility of another destruction, right? That's part of the grand plan. That's not going to happen again.
And I think part of the point he's making too here, sorry, I thought I was muted, but is that there is a progression here, that there is a purpose here, and that there's things that are happening in hierarchical orders, both with man and his effect on the world, and also with God and his continued sort of revelation of what the plan is going to be. And so I think that's one way of looking at what happened with Noah, and within the reaffirmation of the covenant with the post Noahide sort of people, and so it's all part of the larger sort of structure of what has to happen.
Right, and I guess you could say, the people before the flood had the ability to do that, right? He said not all people are equal and not all times are equal. So the people before the flood were in a way spiritually the world was more connected to them, to the degree that if they went down to that lower level, they would destroy the world. Right? They would bring about this world destruction. After the flood, Noah's descendants don't have that strength, right? We can be bad, but hey, what do we affect? We have to believe we're affecting a lot, but we're never going to affect a whole world destruction again. Okay, gentlemen, here you go. We're on chapter 6, part 1. We've finished. Do reread it. It's good stuff. So chapter 2, we can get through. Chapter. We lost Jason. Doesn't want to read anymore. He got scared.
There he is.
Okay, Jason, we thought you got scared about the reading.
That's
Yeah.
how to put another quarter in the machine. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's do
my battery just died.
up to page 371. 20 pages, that's not too much. And I think there's some in the middle as well. Let me just see what chapter 7. Yeah, we'll go easy on you this week. Okay. For those that want to read more, go up to 391. But 371. Read up to 371. See you next week.
See you,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
See you guys. Take care.
Okay. Anyone doing anything exciting? President's